Ladies and gentlemen, this is a formal invitation to you to come to South Florida next month, May 17th, May 18th, and May 19th to help me protest in front of University of Miami in South Florida, 2 days, and 1 day in front of Mount Sinai Medical Center in Miami Beach. It's very crucial for us to understand that justice doesn't always come through the courtroom. While the courtroom is helpful in some cases, in other cases, it's outright insufficient. And at times, it's just there's no justice to be found in a courtroom. While a company can do something in a horrific, and by law that is technically a civil matter, versus us as human beings, when we do something 10% less, that could be considered a criminal offense. For example, a company can rob its employees and students or its customers of hundreds of thousands of dollars. By law, that turns into a civil matter where the victim has to pay tens of thousands of dollars to seek justice. Whereas if you trespass the premises, even to protest, that could turn into a big issue with a cop asking you to leave. And if you refuse to leave, that turns into resisting arrest and trespassing, and you could be even arrested. So the law is not designed really to protect us individuals, but it's more in favor of these institutions. Having said that, my protest next month, I will stay within the bounds of the public property. For example, sidewalks. I do not intend to step on the property of the University of Miami, but I'll stay maybe a foot away from it though. I will have my signs. I want to make my voice heard. I'm inviting you to come down, create your own signs, watch some of my videos and create the appropriate sign to help me raise my voice. And the true intention is to see if I can get an interview at a local news media station so that I could expose the harm that University of Miami is doing to their students and their employees. It's very important to understand that society was founded on the principles of justice. Even prior to civilization, if you look on a playground, a 1-year-old kid may be pushed by another 1-year-old kid, and before that child even understand the concept of justice and fairness, they push them back, because deep inside of us, we were made to understand wrong versus right versus wrong. So I will not rest until I get justice from this racially motivated dismissal that the University of Miami did to me just 2 months before graduating with over $360,000 in student loans. So I mentioned in one of my last videos that I've reached a point now where it's either justice or a jail cell, right? While I do not intend to break any laws, or trespass or anything like that, but I will not leave. I know UM has connection, maybe has some private police officers. No officer will tell me to get off a public sidewalk. I will get there and I will stay the entire time I intended to stay. Another thing, I need volunteers. I need people to come with their cell phones and record the entire event. Once again, May 17th, May 18th, and May 19th. I'm going to do the first 2 days for UM, and then the last day at Mount Sinai Medical Center in Miami Beach. I believe it's around Alton Road. My phone number, 407-923-6698, 407-923-6698. Call me so we can have a meeting location, so we can set up the time, so you can see where I'm standing, or I'm gonna bring my gown. I'm gonna bring all my signs. I'm gonna just go around the University of Miami as close as I can to the property. I'm not gonna step on their property. I understand trespassing laws and things like that, but I have the right to be on the public sidewalk, and no police officer will tell me to leave. I know my rights. More importantly, I spoke to my attorney about that, and that's absolutely okay by the First Amendment. I have the freedom of speech in America. So, back to civilization. It's unfortunate how, first, let's speak about criminals, right? It's my opinion. I'm not a scholar. I'm not a historian. I'm not a psychologist or clinical psychologist. I'm basically speaking offhand, just by my personal experience dealing with other human beings around me, right? It seems to me that there's two different types of criminals, right? You have the passive criminals, and then you have the active, the more aggressive types of criminals. So basically, if someone physically assaults another person, that becomes a criminal offense. You get arrested and you go to criminal court. On the other hand, you have the passive criminals, like some of these people working at the University of Miami with the same dark motivation to hurt and harm others, yet they can be more passive and hide behind the brand, hide behind the legal prowess, the legal power of the institution, and still achieve the same aim, basically, right? In other words, whether the primary motivation is racial or just outright disdain and outright hatred for humanity, the result is still the same. If you physically hit someone, obviously you don't like them or you hate them. But on the other hand, if you can remove a student 2 months before graduating, sending that student on his way with $350,000, and you know, as if they can just fend for themselves and take care of their family with such a burden, right? You hate them just as much. It would have been better if you had punched them, but you have these people do not have the spine to engage in any physical display of their hatred toward another person. So they're more passive, right? Which is even worse. So they have the same motivation, but then they manage to hold their emotions in check and still passively commit the same, even a worse crime, in my opinion, right? Another thing about if you compare some of these individuals, I mentioned in some of my videos that some of my professors were Hispanic in background, and the associate director, now she's the program director, is from Bulgaria, right? If you compare the US with some of these other countries where the justice system is not as, what's the word? The justice system does not really deliver justice. These individuals behave differently in these countries. For example, a man from Cuba like Dr. Gonzalez would never do the stuff that he's doing here in America to his customers or his students. He would never do that in Cuba, but then he would do that here in America because he's protected by the laws. The law here in America is that the employee does something, the employer is responsible, and therefore the employer is to be sued, so forth and so on. Whereas in a country where there's no laws, you do something bad to someone, and since there's no laws, there's no courts, there's so much corruption, people take the law into their own hands, so that these individuals, they know things like that, and they do not engage in these types of behaviors. Another thing is that for me, as far as I'm concerned, what led me to this place now is that we have been in court for almost 2 years. I have spent tens of thousands of dollars. I have tried the traditional way of following the court system, paying attorneys, writing letters, doing the appeal process through the school, and from that, I've even did a complaint to their the accreditation bodies, the COA, all which have failed because the University of Miami is an expert and weaponizing the justice system, weaponizing appeal system. They are good at coercing people. They are good at hiring some of the top attorneys to help them protect their wrongdoing, right? So when you have all this manipulation and all this evasion of justice, evasion, just outright unwilling to accept responsibility, what do you believe is left at this point? But then to take your matter into the streets, so at the very least you can get the public opinion on what is going on with you, or what is going on with this company or this institution, this school, right? So it's important to see how institutional racism intertwine with the justice system, and how this combination can cause so much harm to Black people, minority people, people from protected classes, right? Because on the surface you have the justice system, but these racist, these professors with racist intents, they understand the law. They know how to maneuver around the law, right? You meet someone like that in person, they do not have the guts to even tell you something that is rude in nature, because that's the nature of a coward. This is almost like someone using a weapon to hurt another person. They don't have the willingness to confront them with their fists, right? That's the nature of a coward. You're using your power, your position. In that case, I mentioned a weapon, because you're unwilling to fight as a man, right? I'm not suggesting any of that stuff. I'm just giving you a bare example. But nevertheless, this is what I mean. In the third world country, cowards like some of these professors behave differently, and unfortunately, sometimes that's even their own like home countries, right? They understand that. Versus here in America, the law is so upsided, right? Where you have civil matters, where you have things that should be deemed as criminal put into a civil situation, and where justice is almost impossible to obtain, particularly when you are dealing with a multi-billion-dollar corporation, right? I mentioned also in one of my videos, if we evade our taxes, we become criminals. Property taxes or what have you. But an institution who makes billions of dollars and collecting money, if it's considered revenue and not income, and they are 509c3, I believe, nonprofit organization, certainly that is fine. So it's important to understand that the system was not designed for us, right? Having said that, this is why I'm going onto the street to really push my message onto the public, to really see if I could get an interview with the channel Local 7, I believe, in Miami. CNN, some of those institutions are so large, and they're more interested in politics with Trump and Biden and all of that. Perhaps I have a better chance with some of the local news stations like Help Me Howard. Even with that, even with the smaller news stations, sometimes there's there's so much noise, there's so many calls, there's so many people clamoring for a 10-second attention that they still can't get through to, to express themselves. Perhaps an interaction with a police officer asking me to leave the sidewalk can get their attention, and then have my story to go onto the social media to get the attention that it deserves. So that's my intention this next month. Once again, May 17th, 18th, 19th. Phone number, my name is Robert. Phone number is 407-923-6698. 407-923-6698. Come out, bring your sign, support me. Let's just get this message onto a bigger platform to get more attention on a bigger social news platform, so that the University of Miami can finally start behaving differently. Having said that, thank you so much.